Welcome to the Geometric View, Episode 7, Season 1. Hierarchical periscopic nesting of filaments, spires, spicules, and flux ropes within the Dougherty Network. All right, guys, welcome to the Geometric View. It is January 25th, 2020, and this is the 7th episode. I don't know. I'll do all that stuff in the beginning like I normally do. But today we are getting into tendrils, filaments, how they kaleidoscopically nest into each other. And we have Heather here from Michigan. We have Tess in Sweden, and we have Brian here from Michigan as well. We're waiting for a couple other callers, and we also have another guest from Russia. Anna Kaladze. I don't know if I totally botched that name or not, but one of her drawings we're going to be inspecting, and she does projective geometry, and it's a beautiful piece that has to do exactly with the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. So I'm going to share my screen. Whole screen. Put that down. And I guess we're going to start off with, I'll go right into our comments. There's the comments chat right here. And I'll start at the top. I designed some things, and we're just going to jump right into it, because I was actually told by Don Scott's wife, you shouldn't make the intro so long, just cut to the chase. All right. I've been told that by a couple people now, so we're just going to jump right into the content material to make things a little more professional, and less likely to that someone just changes it immediately, because the first 5 minutes is joking around. Okay, so this is an image here. And this is what I'm talking about, what we're going to get into today. That is, let me get out of here and actually start with the map. This is the map. And I found this, you know what? I don't even think that I shared the one with it in the Dougherty set. So I'll do that while we're talking in a little bit. I'll save that for a little later. But I've created quite a few different Dougherty sets now. And this is, or Dougherty Networks, which we're realizing that they are networks. Heather actually had the idea to call it a net, like catching animals, or a net, because it's like a network. So anyway, so it was called the Dougherty set for a while, and now it's the Dougherty Network. And this shape is directly inside of the center of it. And if you go to the nesting, I can show you it nesting right here. If this is the Dougherty set right here, but I took out all of the circles and I just highlighted these nested filaments that I noticed are already in there, and I drew the lines to connect them. So all these circles are naturally here with the toroids, with the holes to allow the charge to move through, and effective charge distribution throughout the filamentary network. And for the viewers, so I don't throw everybody off, this is the basic geometry of stars. And last week, if you want to check out our episode, we go into nucleosynthesis and star generation. But this is looking at the same exact set and finding it in another geometric, a natural inherent geometric configuration that highlights bessel functions and how Birkeland currents work, how they actually, the gears of them, the gyroscopic motion, I guess, making it alive, the filamentary networks. And if you don't know what Birkeland currents are, it's how charge moves plasma and ionized gases move through the quote unquote vacuum or through space from place to place, and they're on smaller scales and larger scales. Um, so I guess what we're going to do is we're going to relate these networks to biology, the economy, technology, politics, geology, astronomy, all sorts of different things, because these are all over, and it just takes someone to point it out in a puddle, for example, in the radiating, pulsating puddle dynamics that we got into a little bit last episode. And we're going to break it apart. We're going to break it apart systematically so that we understand that we are created with filamentary networks that are nested like this all over in our bodies, all over in nature. We can find this, and in space, and just really get into the dynamics of what this is.
That picture that I just shared, I think nicely illustrates this in acoustics. That's the fifth 5 hertz and a third octave band, and it shows the gradation with the color. So those would be your stacking nested stacks. Yes, thank you. In acoustics, just a nice illustration of that.
Yeah, there's plenty we can hop in with acoustics and how acoustics nest in octaves, which could be viewed as the same. If I were to draw, and I can, and I will show you how how these are octaves and how waves nest subsequently inside of each other, and how everything. Next week, we're going to get into what sound is and the structure of sound. We'll probably brush it briefly in this episode, like you just did, Heather. But next week, we're going to tackle it hardcore. And
okay, I'll save some for later then.
yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah, needless to say, we will get into a little bit more sound for this episode to prime us up for next week. So that's a good primer right there. And I'm going to hop into just a couple things that my mind goes to right off the bat is glowworms. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but my mind goes to glowworms as these filamentary kind of structures because they hang from the ceiling, and glowworms were really cool when I was a kid, and like as a stuffed animal, and they like a flashlight combination. Those were cool. If anybody remembers those. So of course it's going to take forever to load, and then it's going to play a commercial. Oh, here it is, right off the bat. Boom. Mute that. And ooh, man, she gets right into it. Look at this. Okay, so keep that on the background, and we'll start talking a little bit about brainstorming more about different creatures or appendages that could be periscopic appendages, because this structure is periscopic, or protractive appendages that might come out of animals. One would be a penis or phallic, for example. But that's a little bit different. So there's sea slugs. There's different. What are the sea slugs? Are they mollusks? They're part of. I forgot the name of what the branch that they are a part of. Slugs in general, and snails. Their eyeballs pop out of their head and they protrude. So they're protractive and retractive appendages. And then if you look at, so glowworms just really kind of get me in the mood of thinking about this. And that regardless of what we want out of what that just was, maybe a frog's tongue will bring us closer to what we're looking for. And can we see these layers in a frog's tongue? The stretching layers of collagen, which we'll get into collagen and how collagen is this exact same kaleidoscopic nesting structure. I would suppose that a frog's tongue would probably be a cross section of a frog's tongue would probably be like a tree, you know, the tree rings. Guys, if you want to say anything, are we still recording?
Yeah, but I got me thinking about frog tongues, and I'm like, would it be like a tree, or would it be like a little like suction cup, right? Like a series of suction cups.
Well, like a cross section of it. Maybe we can look it up. Cross section of a frog's tongue.
Look it up, because now you got me like trying to visualize the surface of a frog's tongue, and I can't decide how to do it.
Retraction, detachment, and impact. And the different wave, impact, retraction. Okay. I still don't know if we get a cross section. This could be, no. It's a brain or a head or something. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so let's hop right into collagen. We can think about that, and maybe someone will have an answer to that in the comments. Now, this is really cool. And collagen makes up a good percentage of our body, our biomass. It's like braided protein structures. Collagen structure. Look at this. You have a tube within a tube within a tube within a tube within a tube, leading to amino acids that are spiraling and helical in and of itself. So we have that nested structure inside of collagen, inside of our skin, and inside of our bones. Or where else is collagen? I mean, it's mostly in our skin, right?
It's like your hair and your nails too.
Okay. And the protein, collagen molecule. So
there's a good one. The center, there's like two.
Right here.
No,
Look
it was
at
a
that,
black and
though.
white diagram that showed it exactly right there. I don't.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, there it is.
Save image as. Yes, please. Now it has to wait. Yeah, look at that. Tendon, tertiary fiber bundle, the fascicle, fiber bundle, fibril. The veins do the same exact thing. The veins in our body, the veins in the nesting. This is a really good image. For some reason, it's not popping up. Here it is. Okay. Save. Desktop. Whoop, not Dropbox. Desktop. Okay. Maybe we should just go to this, see what this is. So first, we're jumping into biology. We're going to get into technology, the future electric universe technology implications of this geometric shape. predictive analytics of the shape inside of the Dougherty network and how they nest. So we can see that our body is made up of these. I mean, literally 2D sequence type of one collagen with major amino acid components, representation of the structure, a hierarchy.
Yeah, even the chemical structure of it has a waveness to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
look at the chemical sentence.
Relationship between fibrils, fibers, fiber bundles, fascicles, and tendon units. It's great. Wow, good
Download
find.
that paper and share it to the comment, dude.
Okay.
Age-related changes in molecular organization of type 1 collagen and tendons and pro-bipolarization.
Oh, this is what I do. Boom.
Yes, there you go.
Copy and share it to the group.
Thank you.
Now. Yeah. Okay, and I'll also share this to the comments below in the YouTube video here. All right. Okay, so this is what happens. We are literally researching and discovering at the same time. So when you look at trees and the branching systems of trees, dendrochronology, this is the science of studying the tree rings. The science or technique of dating events, environmental change, and archaeological artifacts by using the characteristic patterns of annual growth rings in timber and tree trunks.
What do you think about that? Any thoughts on the validity of people? I know people are having a discussion. I guess we're going to talk about that tomorrow on the different dating mechanisms being used. And this allegedly was supposed to be really good, but now they're saying it's not trustworthy for some reason, and it only goes up to, I guess, for some reason, 12,000 years old. I don't know how they would know that. I guess the age of the tree, maybe. So.
Yeah. That sounds great for tomorrow. That sounds super fun, getting into the dating, carbon dating, other valid or invalid methods of ways that we can actually prove how old things are.
Do you guys really think that anything is valid as outside of the ice core record? I mean, the ice core data seems to be like the only thing that has been undisturbed and retained.
Well, that's a good point. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Do you know about the story of the airplanes from the Second World War that were left, went down on a mission in Greenland? No, yes, Greenland. And they went, I think they've been going back and retrieving several ones, but they got two so far, two airplanes. And they went 50 years after, I guess 1943 is when they went down, all the airplanes during World War II. Did I say World War III? No. Anyways. So yeah, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And then they went 50 years later, and when they came back, they were under 300 feet of ice, the airplanes. So in 50 years, 300 feet of ice had built up, and they could not believe the amount of ice. The people that it was an non-profit organization from the United States.
So they should.
I don't think it's correct at all. I think it's up so incredibly fast. And if we came out from the brown dwarf, allegedly, let's say between 6,000 or 12,000 years, somewhere around there, that's what Thornhill thinks, about 11 or 12,000 years. So that means that the ice started forming 12,000 years ago, not millions of years ago. And it has moved also. According to records, the ice sheets have changed. And so, yes.
Wouldn't that make if the Earth's poles have changed and shifted, and they did that about 12,000 years ago, then wouldn't it make sense that that's only how long that ice has been forming there, and that previously it would have been located somewhere else?
Exactly. Yeah, my point. So that's also not, it's not trustworthy. And then the idea, of course, the carbon 14, same thing. See, everything, I think that we're using for dating. It's just not taking into consideration that Earth might have been in a different place in the solar system and was behaving like a comet for, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 years or so or more. And it was somewhere else, and it was getting zapped by all these planets and interactions. So how can anything be correct? But anyways, that's just my opinion. But yeah, this is...
I would trust the tree rings also because of the that's 1 year for sure. One light, one dark.
Yes.
So
yes, one winter, right?
But we only have about 12,000 years. What that tree, Methuselah is like 14,000 years or something. They say 12,000. I forgot. Oh, let's look up how old is Methuselah.
Ryan, you're so quiet.
They're actually saying, some people are saying that they might have been, you all have heard about the Little Ice Age, right? In the Middle Ages, and Little Ice Age. Some people are saying that Earth might have tilted a little bit, orbit right around there.
Way out. 4,000, almost 5,000 years old, the oldest tree.
So 5,000, yes, not even close to 12,000.
Yeah.
There's also people saying that the miniature ice age was due to like the solar weather, basically, like the solar period that was happening during that point.
Here's age-related changes in molecular organization of collagen, because that's what makes someone look older or younger, the collagen in their face. Anyway, that's related to age. I looked at it, I'm like, wait, we are looking at age-related stuff already? What?
Yes, Heather, definitely. I've heard that too, about the solar flares, or yes, minimum. Well, there was volcanoes, but a lot of volcanic eruptions and cooling as well.
So let's see. So if you think about more things, so we went through dendrochronology, staying on topic and moving forward. Vines do the same kind of thing here. Let's see if a siphuncle here. Siphuncle is the center hole that the mollusk or cephalopod lives and holds on to, and that's really cool. I'm always drawn to thinking about that and the nested chambers here. So that's kind of periscopic, but in a spiral type of nesting.
You talk about your Fibonacci sequence, of course, and your of course. I'm sure you're the expert on.
Yeah, you brought it up. I usually don't bring it up enough, so thank you.
Okay, yeah, I love that. Nautilus.
Yep, Fibonacci and the biology and how biological plants unfold taxonomy of plants. What's up, Ryan?
The shell that you just had up, the picture of the shell, the diagram, and then you had the very first one that you had up, like that, the one in the center. Now I was just going over, in fact, just before the show came on, I was actually meditating to 174 hertz, which is A sharp. And interesting enough, if you look at that, each one of them folds, now that you mentioned up the Fibonacci, and I had to be quiet because the gentleman I'm taking care of, a lot of background noise. So now I kind of went out to the car, so I have good reception. But I was actually meditating to 174 hertz. Now, everybody kept gravitating towards 174, and I knew 528 was, that of everything botanical. F sharp is what the resonant Schumann value is. And I couldn't understand for the longest time, like it didn't click, even though I knew it was there. But then I was in the music store the other day, And a good friend of mine, Mike Carey, knows all about music theory and got me interested in it. And C sharp, F sharp, and A sharp, actually it's F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp is the actual order for a F sharp chord. So we need A sharp to complete the chord. Otherwise, C sharp and F sharp will be at dissonance against each other. They'll never harmonize. So we need that A sharp. And your collagen, as you looked at them coaxials, basically what it is, filament upon filament inside of another filament, making, strenulars. And that's pretty much the detailed layout of plasma energy. Now, if you look at the inside of that cone, each one of these, this is where the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do plays in. Yes, that might carry down river. Yes, indeed. Yes, it is might carry down river. Wonderful man.
My daughter, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. I think to add to, we should give him a plug because the man does wonderful work all around the world. I'm a fly on the wall. He's a dear brother of mine. I painted his whole, I did all the artwork at his studio.
Nice.
Yeah, if you ever, have you seen it? You've been there then.
My daughter took violin lessons there. She just recently,
oh, really?
She's having, we can talk about that later, but,
but a great plug for the man. If anybody wants to shop there, you can shop online there, even if you're not even in the hood. But he was going over the chord fractions, and for the first time, you could hear the same. And the reason why I bring this up is because I've been through the books. I've looked at the music theory. I've seen chord progressions, but then sometimes one person says something and it just sticks. And the FAC in that order. Now think about getting your fact checked. The word fact, as we know it, is FAC is the order at which we live in. Without the A sharp, we don't harmonize. And collagen, interesting, we're on this subject. I'm 50 years old. I have no crow's feet. I live a very clean life. Less is more. And in that note, today I was noticing just by a little bit of pizza, a few birthdays came by. So pizza and ice cream, okay? So, and you talked about collagen living in the skin. The collagen in my skin is now filling up. I'm noticing that excess. So when our collagen fills up, we start to look aged because we're packing all those corpuscles, the molecules, and we're really we're not leaving enough airspace in between. We start to look old. And I found it interesting that after just this afternoon's 174 meditation, that my shoulder, I started fluiding more. Even inside of my mind as I was meditating, the flow of, the energy was better, and it actually caused my body to sit in certain positions to balance out. But these are all happening. The 174, the reason why I bring this up now is you said the Fibonacci sequences. These are important sequences, and healing machines, healing devices, they all have to correlate to this. And this stuff we're talking about now, I truly believe, even though we're only conversationing now, and it's a small conversation with a few people, these are the seedlings to what's growing in our consciousness as a whole, that these kind of harmonies have to play out. You can't separate one from the other. But thank you for allowing me the space to share that, and at the time it came in.
So, Brian, as you were talking, it got me on to looking up music octaves and wave nesting, because Heather brought it up earlier as well, and I was trying to find geometric depictions of the waves nesting like this, and I came across this, and this looks really interesting. I shared it to the group already. The hemiola structure, and the octaves. I've never seen it. Oh, here it is. There you go. Okay.
Now, I have depictions in my book just like this.
You know what we're going to do is we're going to do this next week along with sound.
With the sound. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, perfect.
That would be great.
This is a preliminary, so that's just
and not only that, but it's showing that everything is symbiotic. You cannot take one from the other, from sociology to psychology to Scientology. Anything somebody, and I'm taking a fun with that word.
interdisciplinary work. That's another good word too, because it shows the nature of them nesting and working as a whole. Like,
yes, and if you look at
politics here, you have mathematics here, economy here, religion here, astronomy here, but really it's all the whole structure. You can't have any of it because all of it has every bit of it too.
Absolutely. And Mozart, if you look, see how you got the music notes down there. Mozart, which I thought was interesting, Mozart wrote in a 3D patterning. He actually wrote like, in a coaxial kind of form. Even though he used music scales, he actually showed connotations showing how his music rolled. Actually showed you the movement of his music. And I thought when I saw that, I was blown away that somebody else saw that I saw. And these are, he's seeing what in all of us, and that created the DNA that's part of our created junk DNA, as basically they call it. But it's literally the part of us that can be anything, and the blueprint of everything that we get it all from.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I love that diagram you got up there.
Junk DNA, and in this episode, since we're on biology right now, we're going to get into the epigenetics and how much our environment actually has a role to play in our psychology, our mentality, our physicality, and how we operate and who we become. Because we're starting to see, like, as you said, they called it junk DNA, but there's so much DNA and so much of us that's not, like, where does my body end with all my extra organelle? I have organs outside of my body. I know that I do. There's strands. It's the bioacoustic field, the biofield, the bio plasma.
Yeah, we're tethered. We're actually, there is metered science, and I use that word a lot. If I overuse it, sorry, but that's the gauge science out there. There's the people that like Missouri, the show me states. And in metered science, it's been proven that our mind, our meat, and our brain is the receiver and not the transmitter. It's, that we're receiving and echoing back more than we're transmitting and receiving back. And they've done extensive studies on this, and which is a mind blower, because then that right there I stumbled on it and backs up the idea that consciousness is first and foremost. The conscious wave, the conscious standing wave, the consciousness, the conscious is the first and foremost. We have to base everything that we put out as far as intellect, wisdom, or anything has to come from a conscious base. And once we understand that it all forms on that the unseen conscious is what binds everything. That's the Higgs boson, or, the space between is what I call it. But that is there first and foremost. That's what holds everything together.
This is a good find right here. Sorry, I kind of tuned into this here. Phragma cone. What is the chambered portion of the shell of the cephalopod? It's the chambered portion. Okay. Yep. So it's the long, straight, curved part that is that keeps the coil structure together. And the individual, these two words are cool. The septa are the thin walls or partitions between the internal chambers. So these are the septa, and this is the, I can't even pronounce that. Camera.
Sounds like camera.
The spaces between the closed chambers. So each camera itself is like a nested facsimile or recursion, fractal recursion of the previous one.
Funny how they use the term space between even. That's where life's at. That's what holds life together. That is the life.
Bailey, I'm sorry. I can't. You're too much for me. Your sister's gonna have to deal with you.
If that word is the plural, would the singular be camera?
I know, it looked like it, right? Camera with an E.
Yeah,
I heard that thought too. Isn't that interesting that it's kind of connotated, like you said, in a plural form, like there has to be many spaces between, like it doesn't even allow you to have one. But the word itself is the feminine of many, the plural.
Go lay down. Sorry, guys. My dog's still in heat. I have to get her fixed after this round.
You got all the boys in the neighborhood hanging out, eh? All the dogs lining up at your fence.
She got out yesterday. Well, she doesn't run away, but anyway, she's good. So, yeah, as we're talking about biology still, I want to continue talking about other things that are biological. And sea slugs really have a lot of, oh man, I'm enamored, just blown away by sea slugs. And I didn't take enough notes, otherwise I'd say all these fancy words. But I love the words and the verbiage having to do with sea slugs. And I actually did take notes. Take that back. Maybe it's right here. I did. Okay. So these right here, as they come out and they go back inside, so they do the same thing as like on snails. They rise above and they come out, and their eyes, they're actually eyes. They sense light and a bunch of other stuff, and they can sense way up and way down the stream with these rhinophores. I guess is what they're called. Let's see if we can see the parts of a sea slug. Sea slug parts. And then, because I like, here, rhinophores. Yep, boom. So you have the rhinophores, the mantle, the gills. And what's weird is their gills, their lungs are outside their bodies. And which I wrote down the name for that too. There's another cool name for it. So the rhinophores here, they're the same kind of structure as snails' eyes, similar to the same kind of structure as snails' eyes. Nudibranch rhinophores. Nudibranch rhinophores mean their gills are on the outside of their body. Nudibranch. That's a cool word for gills outside of your body. I got my nudibranch showing.
I'll show you my nudibranch. You show me yours.
Nope, mine's retracting. I take it back. Types of rhinophores. Here we go. This is.
Oh my!
Look at these. Okay.
One of the things that I always thought was interesting, as a young kid, even I grew up with. I was like 3 years old. I played with a kid that was 12 years old in diapers. He was very mentally challenged, and one of the very first reasons why I ever wanted to become a healer, but the people lose parts and we can't grow them back, but a chameleon can, regrow parts. These slugs, coral, all these different types of life that regenerate. Worm, you break a worm in half, or in any quarter other than the heart, it makes a whole new worm.
It grows back, yeah. It grows back using the same geometry that we're talking about.
Thank you. And one of my things.
What's the name of that?
I am not something to do with rejuvenation, regenesis, or something like that.
Limb regeneration. Yeah, there we go. Images. Okay. Yeah.
The tail and stuff. Now this is something that I always thought from being a kid on, and I've hoped to see it in my eyes. I held a guy's hand that was kind of crippled. I actually had a Jesus moment, which was really cool. And the guy went back to work, and I just paid attention to what Spirit told me to do. But the thing is that triggered me that on a small scale, we can re-envelope energy and harmonics. Now, why can't we as humans, we're generated from a single cell. We start the whole entire body completed from those single cell splitting and fractalizing. Why can't we do that when we're still grown? Why couldn't harmonics or light waves, you know what I mean? Why can't we stimulate that part of the brain where a buddy lost a toe or a buddy lost an eye? That if we fed it, a hadron collider is only a machine can create things out of nothing. Why can't we do it?
We do it to some extent. We do it to some extent, for sure.
Yeah, we replaced 3 trillion cells in 7 years. Every 7 years, we're completely a new being.
And let's think of when people chop off their finger, the tip of their finger. A lot of the time, the doctor always says that the nail won't grow back, and I've met a few people where the nail grows back. So that's regeneration.
Yeah, the germinal matrix. Yes, yes. They interrupted my son's and destroyed his nail on the opposite end of it. You know, I mean, I told the guy not to cut into the germinal matrix. He did, and now my son suffers from damage to a nail that I'll never go the same. But yeah.
Hang on, Brant is asking when he wants to come on. I just said hop on.
Okay. Now, see, it's funny that the words that you use, using the same geometry, it creates its own limbs. That's very important. We just need to mimic those, like 7.82 hertz. Until they put the light wave into it, there's a gentleman we were talking about last week, and until he did his research and added that resonance, the Schumann resonance, they or the light resonance. In this case, it happens to be 782, and you can adjust that. That Schumann resonance goes all the way up into the hundreds now. It's in spiking a lot lately. It's not just staying at 782, 783.
Yeah.
And fluctuating. It's gone up and down and everything. But when they put people underground, the same thing. If they don't have that resonance, they get sick. If they reintroduce them to it, they get good health again. So my thought is I'm hoping that before we're done with our days here on Earth, that we'll see that we can do this with harmonics or something, or even light waves, where we could stimulate a piece of the brain or through the optic nerve. Would that be great? Right through the optics. You just hook you up, you look into a machine, and it feeds you the right light waves that would, cause an appendage to regrow.
Or just your eyes, macular degeneration, macular regeneration. How about that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, indeed. Yeah, macular degeneration, they say, was never reversible, just like enamel coming back on your eyes, and both have been proven wrong now. Science has proven them both to be wrong. You can reverse them.
So I'm going to keep us sort of focused because there's quite a bit of content. I really like the idea that you had here with these, because if you look at that cylinder with another protruding cylinder, with another protruding cylinder, it's the same geometry we've been dealing with.
Yeah, and the body knows when to release it. That's why it comes in the do, re, mi, fa, sol, las, because of the fact they have to be in a certain order to generate. Like you're talking about earlier about, since we're in biology, why does it become a salamander or why does it become a frog? Both of them go through the tadpole stage, but then the geometry changes in the vibrational values. And now you have a salamander that is, instead of a frog, but they're both amphibious. They're just finished off and fractalized different.
Indeed. So I'm going to hop right back to these rhinophores right here. And just look at them. Just look at that. The same kind of structure as if the limb's trying to grow back. This one's even flicking you off. And look, so is this one. At this stage, it's like, screw you guys, I'm gonna grow a whole limb. Okay, so sea slugs, absolutely amazing.
Interesting that you brought that up, the finger and everything. They just released in Michigan that it's absolutely lawful to flip off an officer of the law under the Freedom of Speech Act. Isn't that interesting that, here you're saying that naturally, that brought it to mind, and naturally we're designed to flip things off that, that we don't agree with.
Some of us are more prone to doing that than others.
Flagrant with it.
There is another law that was just passed. You have to clean your entire car off because of ice sheaths that fall off of the top of your car. One smashed into a bus window, and I don't know, something must have happened, but yeah. So the state police in Michigan are cracking down on that.
Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me. I have to clean my whole car for it because one bus window broke on a bus. See how they make platforms for this? I've been part of youth and government.
Yeah, but but there was also a guy. There was also a guy who, like, it went through his front windshield and hit him in the face, and his face was pretty severely injured. Not to mention like the potential of the car accident that you know what I'm saying, like that could have happened.
Yeah,
So,
but the fact we've got a law and you're going to be ticketed for it because
right.
you know, and I'm not denouncing the loss of life at all. Please don't get that wrong. But the fact that these platformers, you know, these they sit around waiting for this stuff to be, you know, brought up so they can exploit it, you know. Like really, why don't we just make it awareness that everybody knows, hey, clean off your car, you could kill somebody. You know what I mean? Nobody ever thought about that, what, for a bus or a guy, you know, but they got to make a law out of it nonetheless.
So I can't not be talking about this subject and not involve radiolaria once again, and for the third episode, because of the spicules and the spires and the way that they are structured, my mind goes to, yep.
They totally look like bacteria and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you literally go, they look like they could be sea creatures or like small, you know, bacterial microbials. I mean, you know, as above, as below, as within, without. You know, if you look at, and then you could look at star clusters and stuff like that. They could very well resemble the same geometry.
Yeah, and they're what is this thing that they swim with? A lot of bacteria swims with
the flagellum.
Flagellum, yeah.
The bacterial flagellum. I love that irreducible complexity. That, you know, and they don't want to admit that, but you know, people that are, you know, evolutionists, all these different things,
yeah,
think
it's a motor, man.
Yeah, it's a motor. You know, my car don't run without the little tiny the stick that makes the oil pump work. You know what I'm getting at? Like, you know, there's irreducible complexity. These are thought of things that they've done in complex design that have a motorized skill that was created. There's something before it that thought it out. There's a system.
Look at that. There it is. That is gorgeous and beautiful.
Like bearings and everything. Look at that. Look at the race. There's a race in there. There's a handle.
There's a
junction. Got all your bearings in there. I mean, designed, engineered flawlessness. And you can't. I think it's like 11 or 12 or 13
plasma membrane. The plasma membrane spins it down here as the generator.
That's basically that's your mitochondrial information there. Like, that's the exact same way that the mitochondria run.
And look how the filament. Look how the filament comes out. Ooh, with the same geometry we're talking about, going all the way in and probably connect somewhere in here, or probably all the way through. Flawless, seamless, you know?
Yeah, like you're seaming, like you're putting fitting pipes together.
Oh, look, boom. Connected filament. Oh, helical screw. Oh, dude, they're broken down.
And then we got to look at the fact now. David Schirmeyer comes to mind when we look at this part right here. And I put that. Did you see that bubble thing that I put on the group, the geometric view here, where the guy blowing smoke into the bubbles and stuff? There was that. No, that was the bubble sculpting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I put on bubbles. My bad. I'm in so many groups. So anyway, bubble sculpting. This reminds me of how he was taking and actually making the bubbles spin around the central bubble, you know, because that's how the flagellum works. You know, I mean, the mitochondrial layer, the plasma layer, causes the charge and causes that, you know, that rotational value, and then that's how it spins. And to think that it's all conscious at that level, the bacteria itself knows it's got to spin one way to move in one direction and spin another way to move the other direction.
And it feels good when it consumes. Consumption, yummy, munching, good. That's what all creatures feel good when they eat and drink. It's inherently wired in the networks of the whether it even has what's the word that goes through nerves, whether it even has nerves or not. I think everything feels good or is rewarded with some sort of
flow mechanism. There's flow.
So it is flow.
There's something else that I was looking at today, just before the meditation today, about the fact that it's designed to be moving all the time. Damn it, I can't think of what it was, but I thought it was interesting. That, you know, it's one of those things we think is still, but it's always moving. And I'm not even going to go into it, but there's a lot of things that we think aren't moving. Or like when we touch something, I mean, they've proven time and time again that things never truly touch. There's always a space between. Always. Like you can't get two magnets to mash together, if they're on the like poles, because they won't touch.
Virus.
Yeah, there's a force in there, and that force is the space between. Now that's another one there. What's the name of that one there? It looks like the spider with the diamond on it.
Bacteriophage.
Yeah, bacteriophage. Now you look at all the movies and stuff. Notice how they're bringing these kind of things out in movies now. And there's mechanics like this now too. There's AI machines that walk and everything, and they kind of look like that.
Helical loop nesting.
Yeah, we're just mimicking
DNA.
nature. Some of the best inventors have said that. We just mimic nature.
Oh yeah, it's all nature. It's biomimicry. We're going to be talking a lot about biomimicry. Now they're showing that there's a flow. I just saved this the other day somewhere. Maybe the article. Hopefully I'll be able to share it with the audience. But there is a...
there's your junk DNA. See your DNA strand. Oh, I tried to touch your screen to bring it up.
There's a geometry. Funny. There's a geometry to the way that DNA turns into knots. So the knotting geometry has a flow to it, and there's a flow the way that they knot, and yes. they're knotting using the same. They're knotting using the same geometry that we're talking about. Coil within a coil within a coil within a coil. Now this is
constricting and rarefaction.
This is exactly the geometry that we're talking about here right now. Kaleidoscopic nesting solenoids. It's solenoids and solenoidal is having to do, or sinusoidal has more to do with sound. But anyway, you can see the tubes here, and the tubes branching, creating us once again and using DNA. So that concludes biology, unless we hop back into it, which we probably will eventually here and there. And I want to stay laser beam focused. I think Tess might have already left. She's got, we'll be talking with her tomorrow on the electric view. Okay, so let's talk about technology and what shapes in technology we might find. And right off the bat, my mind goes to coaxial cables and antennas.
Yes, and thank you. That we've actually used that as a reference a couple times today.
Coaxial cables, boom, and we get the same type of helical nesting.
And look at how they run the roping for if you can look at the braiding for the grounding, it's actually braided. You know what I mean? So there's a patterning in their coaxial braiding. Yeah, right there, the filament. See that?
Whoops.
So they're mimicking as well the same kind of helical entwinement. Even in one of the layers.
You know why?
There's a beautiful one you got right up there.
Yeah, you know why we do this is because of efficient energy distribution, maximum efficient energy distribution. So it's patterns of least resistance once again.
And you're creating a field by doing that, and they know that.
And information can move information, fiber optics, light, whatever you want to move through here can move most efficiently when it's packed fiber bundles, just like our muscles, baby. And this universe biology, electric universe geology, geometry, astronomy. This is where it's at, man.
Now, see here. Now look at that. Now this right here, we could take this cable here, and like you said, we could talk about nerve filaments. We could talk about blood vessels. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about so many different things by as you said, looking at the mechanical. We could look at the biological and talk about mechanical, because they're symbiotic. There's no changing. You can't get one to work without looking or acting like the other.
Nerve fiber.
There you go. See, look at that. See?
Dude, I think we're stumbling onto how to go into these networks, man. Literally, biologically. And that's what we will be covering a little bit at the end of this episode.
Thank you. And look at and this is the kind of stuff to see how these cool things are. These are the things that little children should learn. We should be having these conversations as adults. We should have had these conversations at 3 and 5 in the sandbox.
Great point, Brian. These are children's books that we're writing right now. These are literally picture for picture children's books. And then they stop thinking about why everything's separate, and then they start thinking about why is everything all connected? Like,
thank you. Why is that?
We did cursive. All the letters were connected.
Now let's look at the actual. You got this nerve here, and we'll think of the coaxial. The same thing with the coaxial. If you overload a coaxial unit with too much heat, too much amplitude, you start to degrade the wave of energy carried. Right? You know what I mean?
You degrade this wire. But the more you recur your thought along this tendril, the more solid the thought becomes in your mind, and the memory itself is extremely
pathways. Indeed, thank you.
Memory
pathways.
The memory.
Now think about information in the same way that you overload electricity. If you think about information the same way, if we get inflammation because we abused the line, we ran too much amplitude without enough flow, then we end up getting inflammation and pain. Same thing with coaxials. It shuts down. It just does. Yeah.
Look, there we go. The exact same thing as all of the collagen in our body. DNA, collagen, our brain, freaking neurons, everything's doing this. So why don't we start wrapping our mind around the mimicry of this and do it on a larger and smaller scale, like we will be getting into later in this episode.
Women, see that right now, what you're bringing up right now, I could talk all about the fact of how women could stay beautiful forever if they just paid attention to a simple sentence called less is more. And yes. I see so many women out there that they got these topical creams, and I love, there's a line from the Bible, and I know I reference Christ a lot, the Christ, not just Jesus, but the idea that why clean just the outside of the cup? Clean the inside of the cup and the outside be clean. He says, why do you put all these adornments on the outside when if you wash the inside, you would be beautiful outside as well? And this is a truth, because like I said, I looked in the mirror today, I'm like, why on earth am I getting a little bit of fatty buildup? Oh, wow, I've had a lot of sugars. When you look at breads and they break down into glucosamines, which have to be broke down into complex sugars, now you need the insulins, blah, blah, blah. If we looked at the fact that we just all cleaned out our fish tanks a little bit more, we would all stay young. There's absolutely no back science that shows that the body should age. No science at all that backs that the body naturally ages. All the constituted factors of aging are through neglect or excess. So either from too less or too much. So either, either we're doing too much gluttony to our body, or we're not adding enough nutrients to the body. And so we could, by what we're talking about now, and there's another good one right there. You're talking about your blue and your red veinage, your hemoglobin right there. We could talk about the transference of hemoglobin.
Yep. And this what is this? Is this a vein?
Yeah, that's your veinage.
Dude, look at that. Everything is this. Everything is this. This geometry, man. And this is the geometry of
collagen,
those nanotubes.
Yes.
And I'm gonna hop into this article here about when we push water through 1 molecule thick water molecules,
and it causes light. Is that the one you're going to go to? It causes light to start up.
It creates ice when it should be boiling. Right here, inside tiny tubes, water turns solid when it should be boiling.
Yes, I was just going over. There's a phase at which it happens where it's almost like a 0 point in the infusion moment. And I was just reading an article on this very thing yesterday. That's crazy you bring it up today. And they were talking about just before it goes to like 7,000 degrees, like there's nothing. It's just a suspended point.
It's crazy. So I'll share this article to the group as well.
Yeah.
Copy. So dude, oh my gosh, the neurons and the nerves, now I'm getting like goosebumps. I don't really have them, but I should. Okay.
The juices are flowing. I'd get you.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, when I started out, I really just started out to help people that were feeling detached and alone. This all started with just being part of a ministry that watched a lot of hurting people that felt like nobody was loving them. And I just simply wanted, the precept of all my knowledge came from a ministerial point. And a lot of women, it seemed to be, that I was being delivered onto, helping minister to, and getting back to good again. And the feminine. So that's what I broke it down. I'm like, oh my God, the feminine is wounded. So the feminine being brought back up and everything is what I was looking to do. And I found out that this is where all this information, like the psychology, the sociology, nothing escapes this from one end to the other, from coaxial, filaments for bringing your internet in, to neurological filaments that are bringing your neurons and your neural pathways open, to blood veins, to your Dougherty set, to energy, to plasma energy.
Thoughts.
Consciousness. Thank you. And we have to go there. Thank you for bringing that in. It has to go to that first.
Yeah. So this is when I first found it inside the Dougherty set. I was like, oh my goodness.
And the kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
The kaleidoscope, your set that you did on here reminds me of, why don't we teach kids why we let them? Why did anybody ever make a kaleidoscope in the first? They had to have been wanting to show somebody something. They had to have known something what they were wanting to show. Follow? But we've lost the meaning. Now it's a children's toy. But I was amazed by them growing up.
Kaleidoscopes, yes. Kaleidoscopes, telescopes, periscopes, endoscopes, all sorts of different things. Since we're in technology / biology a little bit still, we will talk about flux ropes and Birkeland currents now, and how energy and charge and efficient charge distribution involves these nested coaxial filaments, which are Birkeland currents, which I'm sure Christian Birkeland wasn't the first person to stumble upon them, but a lot of people throughout history have drawn these nested. Well, I haven't seen too many, but that they exist, especially. I don't know. It's just one of the natural things I do is draw.
Anybody who ever stopped and looked at lightning has had this go through their mind. If you really sat and looked and watched, from an observer point of view, the fractalization of lightning, I don't know, maybe we're different totally than the rest of the world. I can't imagine that we completely are, but the thought, when's the first time you thought of did it start at the ground or did it start in the sky? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm getting at? Mm-hmm. Where did the arc begin? Mm-hmm. And you look at these currents and it does the same thing.
It is. This is how lightning moves. This is how
going into a fractal point, or is it coming out of it?
Birkeland currents, it goes in and out. And I've done the geometry to show both. And that is, I shared it to the group right here. And how they connect to each other.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And go inside and out of each other, just like our thoughts. And
look at the gritty cube pattern you got. You see a bunch of cubes in there. Mm-hmm. And that's a free open set. Now that's working at a hexagonal, you know what I mean? And then once upon a time, there was an octagonal patterning that held the hexagonal. And now somehow or another we stalled in it. And that's because the A sharp has been removed from our harmony. And that's my focus now, as to how to infuse the A sharp back and make people conscious about infusing these like a coaxial unit, so where we have the harmony again. And see, look at you even got in the green set there, your green and yellow all the way to the far right of your drawing. You actually have the torque spin, what I mean, of how each insulation value is going, which is important, because that's what creates the non-friction and allows this to continuously go forever. That's how mitochondrial are able to be a battery forever.
That's the word. Force-free field-aligned current is what is no friction. What allows it to be frictionless. And
I've moved my magnetic motor into a fluid-like state. Now, oh, I got to, how would I send you a picture right now to send it over to Skype? I want to show you, now you brought up the collagen, and now I want to show you the fascist symbol. Have you ever seen the fascist symbol? It's on our money. It's like a band of rolled up, like bamboo almost, but rods, and then there's an axe running through them.
Okay.
And when you show
send us the picture. I'm going to keep going with this structure because I don't want this episode to be 2 years long because there's still a lot of content. So this is a Walter Russell actual machine. It looks like I can't talk too much, or I'd be talking out of my butt because I don't know exactly what he has going on here. But it looks like this is how you generate charge.
Yes.
And this is a Birkeland current showing the flux rope and the counter rotation. So, and I just showed how they go inside and out of each other. And thoughts are this same way. I really do think that thoughts nest, and I think I've had a vision of being on a thought wave. And that's why I started this show with glowworms, because in the vision there was a lot of glowworms, and the thoughts were glowing. They had color themselves.
I did an art cover. The band, it was a Christian band called KC and the Glowworms, and we did up all their artwork and like everything, and it was kind of cool because the kids love glowworms, and it taught them about glowworms and stuff. But no, you're absolutely right. They're really interesting on how that plays in.
So this is Anna Kladzy's work, and from Russia. I asked her to be on the episode today, and she said yes earlier.
That was one earlier, right? Or she never made it.
Someone's trying to hit me up, probably to be on the show. So, buddy, when do you guys want me to be on the show? What's this?
I just sent you that picture over on your messenger. I didn't know how to do it on Skype and not, jam up everything. But it's got the axe running through it. And I thought it was interesting that the fascist symbol is the axe running through the collagen. When I saw your collagen shot, the one with all the bindings, I thought, wow, isn't that interesting that the actual currency is trying to break the very symbiosis of the binding of the consciousness of our world. They're actually cutting through it all with their idea of their own currency, their own energy, and I think you'll find it interesting that it's called a fascist symbol, and it's on the dime, it's on on the money, it's all over Roman symbology and stuff.
I don't know why I didn't get it. See, here's the chat. You shared it, right?
I just shared it with Messenger to you. Yeah,
that's weird.
Oh,
Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll
let me see if I can't bring it into Skype or
something. Just throw it in the Skype, and then I can hop on. But I'm going to continue here with this electric reactor designed by Walter Russell here, which looks like the one half of the other image that we showed a minute ago. This one, which involves no moving parts, no shaft, no moving parts. Signed by Leo, it looks like. Okay, so, here it is. Okay, so Brian, you shared this with us.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking. See how you got the bindings there? Like, that looks like the collagen, and that one shot. There was one of the clips you brought up. And as soon as I don't know why on earth I thought about this blade hook to it, and that this is the fascist symbol. And that, the idea that it looks like they're cutting through the binding of who we are to keep us separated, to keep us controlled over. Wow, isn't that interesting?
That's a good point, but I don't want it to be on the screen much more.
No, I didn't. Just the symbol, you could take a look at it later even. But isn't it interesting that the center wrappings look like what we're talking about?
The episode's going to get banned because we put this image up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, damn
okay.
Masons will be all over us. Will be knocks on our door at the middle of the night.
Well, the Freemasons talk about the the great geometer. You know, they call God the what is it? The great geometer?
Yeah.
No, the master architect. Master
Master
architect or
architect.
great architect. Yeah.
Yep.
So, which implies design and structure, as we know, and as the normal that they're feeding to culture every single day is everything's screwed up. Nothing makes sense. You can't handle this. You need drugs. You need to go work out. You're not good enough.
Yeah. Your mind can't handle this kind of intellect. Yeah, that downplaying. I can't wait to outgrow that as a collective in this planet. I mean, really, it's children check us all the time. You know what I mean? You know, to be checked by a 6-year-old child, man, it's kind of humbling. You know.
So I'll pull up a picture. I'll pull up a picture of a Birkeland current just to familiarize the audience, the images, because I've been talking about it a lot. And you can see that they're nested filamental structures, and just to show people, you know, floating through space, the galaxy, they come off of the sun, then they scale all the way down into plasmoid creatures, which is what we are, and then we're filled to the brim with every single one of our structures as these helical winding braided filaments, which once again you can look and see the wrapping around azimuthal surfaces right here. Look, there's the columns, the cylinders, 2 of them coming together, creating one, and then they nest. So that's taking this structure, which, for lack of a better term, periscopic, we've been calling it periscopic geometries. And I'm going to hop right in. We went through coaxial cables, antennas, animal antennas, like bug antennas do the same thing.
Oh, I never thought about that. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's how they pick up the vibration.
It totally, like, I pictured it completely. Like, why didn't I ever think about that?
Yeah, that's what picks up the vibrations. I tread lightly on talking about the bug antennas because I know so much about it intuitively and through the geometry that I'm waiting for that to be an episode on its own. So, yeah, you got all these different types of antenna that sometimes unfurl, go back in, move. They clearly have that collimated structure to it, larger, little less, and then so vibration, frequency, sound. We're covering everything. I think I'm going to throw this in right now and say that the ethereal structure, the geometric ethereal structure, hierarchical nesting of prison inmate hierarchical nesting, economy, religion, and politics also has this invisible type of structure. To it. You can see how the hierarchy works if you think about politics and religion. Nesting.
Well, your symbol right in the dead center is almost laid out like the Vatican, alone, right then and there alone. And I can go to London City, and then we can go to Washington D.C. right on the top of it, and we can go to. There's several different that symbol right in the middle where your arrow is right over that symbol right there, and some of these other depictions are laid out all over geoglyphs. You know, that the way that ancient cities were laid out. Same exact action. We can go to Machu Picchu. We can go to the Aztec fortress. I can't think of the Temple of the Serpent, I think it's called, where that city is laid out the same way. So, you know, you're absolutely right because, you know, and there you go. It's in a cubical form right there. That's hexagonal is critical.
Which is what Maxwell, the freaking father of electromagnetism, designed the ether plasma, Planckinian scale ether plasma to be these hexagonal. I'll pull it up right now. Maxwell.
Now see, This is the thing. I think we're going to be stumbling and finding out because that the hexagonal is actually intertwined, and the next octave down is the next ganglion. You know, the next nesting. As I like your word nesting there. The next nesting below the octagonal. See, the octagonal is the layer outside of our hexagonal.
Charge separation. We go through this constantly every single night. We get positively charged, negatively charged, switched, and we charge like a battery. But all structured water inside of our bodies does this.
Yes.
It creates these charged layers.
H3O2, yeah.
So this is the ether. This is literally what the ether is made of, according to
And that's
Maxwell.
how it communicates so quick. Yeah, you know, one as within was without. And think about a bubble that's literally the size of a pinhead that's rolling in and out of another bubble and at an exponential growth of phi rate 1.618. Within a degree of time, you've taken that bubble that's the size of a pinhead and it's communicated to information that's as big as our planet.
Okay, now remember radio antennas?
Yes.
Periscopic. That was like the first antennas that we had until we realized fractal geometry, which is the best way for the antennas.
It started gridding out and then doing our satellites. My dear brother, I do have to go right now. It's been absolutely wonderful being on this call. I appreciate you and all you do so much, and thank you, Miss Heather, and everybody else who's been on the show. You know, I don't know, it's what, about an hour and a half or whatever since we started the show, but I do have to go. I got a huge mural to do out in St. Clair Shores. I'm actually doing a 3-dimensional relief. I'm going to do a Degas Van Gogh through Horn, and it's just going to be insane. And the gentleman just called me. He's finally ready. So bless you all, and thank you.
Well, blessings with your mural, man. That sounds cool. Keep pictures so we can keep us informed.
Yeah, I'm going to be dropping them out there for sure. I'm terrible at that, not keeping up on it, but I got to because it's part of this phase of our ministry of what we're doing, you know, showing people what we can achieve. So I will definitely do that. Bless you both. And I wait for the day when we really get to sit down, the three of us in the same room, bring our information and our stuff, and we can hold it all tangibly, you know, because this is a cool energy here. Really, really neat. And
thank you. I agree. I appreciate it. And as an outro for you, I just want to show you buildings and how we structure buildings accordingly, the tallest buildings, and how they could be.
Yeah, if you go the opposite way, they fall over.
All right, Brian. I love you, man.
To it. Indeed, man. Love you. Bye-bye.
Wow. All right. So keeping straight with the flow of things, we only have a little bit to cover because we covered quite a bit already. We have electric universe architecture, or I guess it doesn't need to be called that, but that's what I call it, and I run that on Facebook. But you can see buildings. We've done buildings that nest like this, and you've been to this one, right?
The Burj? Yeah. Yeah, I've been to the top of the Burj Khalifa.
Wow, the Burj Khalifa, so gorgeous, man! Look at that with the fog.
Crazy. Everything was really little. It was monstrously taller than everything else.
And we've done. I want to talk about the biomimicry that we've already done with here's a crane, and since we're in technology, I don't know how to spell cranes. Isn't it with a C?
Yeah, CRANE.
That's Oh, CRAN, cranes?
Yeah.
KRAN. Yeah, that was right. Okay, so cranes use the same geometry here. Sorry, what?
You were talking about bio. I thought you were talking about the bird. You're like biotechnology, and I was
right.
But yeah, that's what it's making, right?
Yep. So you see that this is biomimicry, that we've taken this design already and we use it to build the largest structures on Earth, using all sorts of the same geometry we're talking about, kaleidoscopic geometry. Why isn't this named? Maybe I'm naming it. I don't know. I noticed it, so we're seeing the pattern, as Gareth would say. So, which is an awesome YouTube channel. See the pattern, check it out. So in technology, we have antennas, architecture, periscopes, endoscopes. Those are the same type of geometry. Do I need to even pull it up? Tokamaks, tokamak reactors, the same geometry are in tokamak reactors. Oh, no, that got me out of there. But in a donut toroidal type of shape. Yeah, I said politics and our our bioplasma, I suppose, is like this. Our bioplasma field, I'll type that in. Images, because a lot of people don't believe in this yet, but we have it. Definitely, you can feel the energy and the extensions coming out of your body. So I suppose that they come out using these layers, but more like an octopus, not like this, coherent. Maybe if you're Jesus.
Or like a corona, like well, think about, I mean, if everything repeats and everything's a similar pattern, then wouldn't our corona be similar to the way like the sun's corona works and have like curling
Yes.
filaments, things that are going on
Yes.
and moving all around all the time? It wouldn't be like a glowing bubble. It would be kind of more like a moving smoke or cloud or however you might visualize that.
That's how I envision it. And for people who don't know what the corona is, it is these tendrils and these filaments, and there's a preponderance of energy coming out of the tops, the poles, like we would have a preponderance of energy coming out of our poles of our brain and our uh, bottom, our bosoms. But it would be more like yeah, just like a coronasphere. Around this area, you'd have microfibril tendrils that go out for as long as you know you can reach, and as long as you believe you can reach. You are the universe as much as you believe you are the universe, and you can investigate it as much as you believe you can go into it, and come back sober. Bailey, get out of there. Dog in the trash. And the sun, yeah, it is completely the whole dog out. I use the one that Heather uses. I love that one.
Yeah, I was like, dug out, get dug out.
That's how I use. I'm like, that's actually a good one. So we can see these fibrils and nested tendrils and how helices form. And the basic breakdown of the geometric structure of these is toroidal. They're toroids. And the toroids create the helical flow through the circuits as the energy is dispersed.
It's important too because these are like the structures of it, but when you look at the structures of it as a fluid, they're not as geometric looking, they're more organic. So it's important to know that there is fluidity within the structure.
Yep, like I was just saying, it wouldn't be this perfect, maybe Christ or something, but even then you would be wrapped all around the earth, the universe, however far you can imagine. Imagination is the limit here, not your body. How big, where's the end of your universe? Where's the end of your body? As far as you can reach with your mind, really. And that's what's beautiful about it. One of the things. Anyway, that's part of my beliefs. So you went into astronomy a little bit here with the sun, and that's how I kind of wanted to close it, with astronomy and geology, crystal layering of crystals.
Oh, exactly. That's a good point. So yeah.
So Birkeland currents, we can also see them come off of the different planets. When I first typed it up, this image came up. This one right here. Tendrils, filaments, wrapped up layers of tendrils and filaments. So this geometry is everything, really. And also goes back to touch on the past two episodes that we have we got deeper into the geometries of lightning and black holes, kink instabilities, plasmoids. And we're going to keep doing this because this is what people need to know, and what people need to realize, that the interior structure of a Birkeland current is the same geometry that I'm laying out here in these kaleidoscopic spicules, spires, and filaments, which is also the names of what they're called on the sun. So brings us back to the sun, Birkeland currents, and we'll dial out with geology, crystal layering, and as I'm searching through these, I keep finding that I'm writing the same words, the key words: layering, nesting. I don't know what I'm going to get out of this, really, because I'm so stupid at typing. Crystal geometry. Images. When you get into the individual crystalline layers of the atomic layers of the lattices, you see these nested structures. Even in the refraction of the light coming out of the materials, you see the nested kaleidoscopic patterns.
I think it might accentuate it.
Yeah, it might. You're right. It could.
I think the way I described it in I made a video about the web of space, the space web, the cosmic web, but it's more than that. But anyway, it's a crystalline substrate epitaxy. So the substrate is crystalline, and the way that everything is layered on it describes its mechanism, its shape, its place of matter, and it's all kind of reflected and refracted back on itself over and over and over. So it's really an amazing, beautiful thing. But everything is connected. Everything is connected.
If you could share that, I'll put it on the YouTube video too, if you want to share it in the group chat.
Okay, let me find it real quick and I'll put it on there for you. Thank you. But it's just it's something that's very interesting to me, and I don't know if people really realize the importance of it, and that it's actually all there is. You know, like
that's all there is the geometry of crystals. That's what we are.
Exactly. And the ancients knew it, which is really amazing. And then the way that they all kind of described it in a similar fashion, you know, they all said it was either like a web of people weaving cloth, you know, like crystal music, and the way that the sounds wove matter and your fate and your being. And so it's like, how could everybody all over the whole world understand it in this way at the same time, unless when they were so far apart, right? Unless they were connected by it, right?
Or we just knew it inherently,
But that's what I mean.
And then the crystal in our minds and the morphogenetic morphic resonant field, the memory is crystallized, and we all just know it to be certain shapes. Or maybe they didn't know, and they're just inherent shapes that we draw as when we have a drawing utensil in the sand. These are all just super simple shapes. So the fact that we all stumbled on them is natural, and the fact that all of nature is constructed out of them is also natural, because it's built out of simplistic building blocks.
Yes, it's all made out of the same thing, and it's all traveling along the same substrate. right? So when the substrate bends, everything that's on that also is affected in some way with that bend. And I often think of it as like a shoestring, because people think about like the speed of light and things happening simultaneously. And it's like if everything is connected by strings, filaments, currents, if one end of that string gets pulled, the entire string moves
Yeah,
simultaneously.
yeah,
It isn't like this thing has to this movement has to travel to the end of the string, because it's all one piece. When you pull your blanket up, your face gets covered, your feet get uncovered at the same time. They're, it's
yeah. When you
that.
like this is one side of the universe over here. When you nudge it over here,
Mhm.
eventually it'll get felt over here, or it happens simultaneously on many suboctaves and sublayers and
Yeah.
sublayering of creature stacking, um, which creatures nest in the phylums. The whole solar cycle nests with this geometry in phylums. Um, if you were to draw the solar cycle using this geometry, it would make a lot more effing sense, because creatures and all creatures stack accordingly to this geometry.
And you should.
You can't have one creature without two or three other types of creatures first. And then you
Mhm.
have that next layer that builds the next filament that allows for the space for the creature to grow. Solar, what is it? Our solar cycle? Yeah. Which is the most fundamental stuff. I love this because Aurora's in this in school, and your kids are in this, and they come and they remind us of this stuff, and that we were taught this, and we forget about this kind of stuff mostly. And then you're like, whoa, everything is the solar, this, oh, solar food cycle. What is that? What's that word?
That's a solar
Solar.
cycle.
That's what I thought, but I'm not getting
Yeah.
the images of the animals. Solar food. Didn't they teach us like it started with? Yeah, here we go. The food chain is what it's called, and it's a chain. The food chain is
Okay,
nesting,
I'm sorry.
creature
I was
nesting.
confused by your explanation. I wasn't sure where you were going.
I'm
Like,
sorry. It was the food chain, and that's probably why I confuse other people when I bring that up. Now I'll remember the food chain and creature nesting and creature stacking. You can't have this creature without creating these first, then this, then this, then this, then these grow out of necessity out of the space that these turn into, or whatever. And however it happens, but no matter what, the geometry is the same as these fibers, dude. If you were to draw the the food chains using this geometry, it would make a lot more sense. But have it be an Ouroboros, like I've done already with the geometry, and I don't feel like pulling it
it is,
up.
but it is an oral anyway.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
even when because what they're not what's not being illustrated in the one that you have up with the fish is that when that big fish dies, those little plankton and things will eat it, so
yeah.
it becomes the
Mhm.
Ouroboros.
So the little filaments go right back into these filaments as eating it, and then it goes back into the whole cycle. So that might be something that I'm going to do this week, is show off how exactly the food chains, um, food chains are completely laid out like Birkeland currents, and these tendrils and these kaleidoscopic geometries, because it makes a lot more freaking sense when you do it that way. And then you're like, oh, this is all the birds, and then that can't happen, and then this will go extinct if you take this one and this one away. Or if you take this one away, this won't be here anymore. Therefore, they're bound in a double helical knot, and this one can't do without this one out of necessity. And that filament, that's a filament right there. That these two binding out of necessity, this can't, you know, if this is the pollinator of this, and then this, and only this bird can only pollinate this type of flower, then they are in a closed loop nested tendril filament. That's for sure. So once we start wrapping our brains around the food cycles using these filaments, then, like I have, then everything makes a lot more freaking sense. And it is um, showing information design. I'm a designer. I do these cartographs. I'm a cartographer. I make maps. So it's all about how you can efficiently show people aesthetically and understandably design information, data maps. And it's really good with circles now. Data mapping has changed a lot, and there's beautiful data maps that are a lot more easy to understand. I don't know, beautiful data maps, map information. Yeah, towards these circle ones, you can really start to understand more things when they start making things circle. When information and data become circular, it's really cool because you start to understand it more. Beautiful maps, data. Anyway, so yeah, this episode, we've covered pretty much everything. Thank you, Heather, for coming on. And is there images in here? Any images in here you'd like to talk about, or any other content you'd like to talk about before we close it up for the day?
No, it's okay. I was just trying to put a few things in there that seemed to be related to what you were posting, so we can talk about this on for next week.
Oh, Chris Seeley sent this. I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, this is Chris. He's working with Terrence's crew also, and he's doing quite a bit of wonderful work and research with that.
So yeah, so in response to that one, I put that. Chris sent that one.
You put this.
I put that there.
Yeah, the 64 grid.
Because it speaks to that, and the flower of life, which I know they're working on. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, sweet. Well, I'm getting a call right now, and I think we should wrap it up. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
My love and adoration goes out to you. Continue to be the amazing person and that you are. And seriously, we need to hang out soon. Actually, Aurora's looking for something to do today. I don't know what your schedule's like, but.
Oh yeah, we're just hanging out. We're not doing much today.
If you want to get together, I can come out there.
Right on. Yeah, why don't you give me a call after your call?
Sounds good. All right. Well, that wraps it up. Thanks for joining in on the Geometric View, everybody. Out to the listeners out there. This is a Love is Watching production sponsored by Bubble Sculpting. And I think we'll just keep it with bubble sculpting for today. But I'm designing fun little commercials to show in these. So, all right. Thanks again for your time, Heather, and we'll have a good weekend, and I'll give you a call after this.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, buddy. You're awesome.
Yep. All right. Bye. Special thanks to Dan Winter. I'd like to thank Don Scott, Eugene Bagachov, Wallace Thornhill, David Johnson, Terrence Howard, Laird Scranton, Rupert Sheldrake. Check us out on our other podcasts, The Electric View and The Brighton Buddy Show. I also independently interview artists at the Universal Ones Artist Collective on Buddy Doherty's YouTube channel. The Geometric View is Love is Watching product. Love is Watching production. Thank you for doing that. Executive producers of the Geometric View are Buddy James and Brighton Cotter. Music is by the acronym Beauty, the acronym BUD, and Abyssal Dionysus is the geometer. That's me and Brighton. Thank you for being here. Catch you next Saturday.